welcome to this episode of Stylish Leadership. My name is Matthew Simmons, your host of this show. Check out SimmonsEssentials.com and DangerousSpaceMedia.com. I'm here with Melissa Chartier again.
Hello.
MelissaChartier.com. And we're going to talk in this episode about dating and relationships. I'm sure this is going to push a lot of buttons because this is a very hard topic to talk about because it's very passionate, because people are very, it's talking about emotions and feelings, and this is very passionate. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to get, I'm sure we're going to step on some toes, but who cares? Dangerous Space Media, we're not going to be politically correct. We're going to keep it real here. And so talking about dating, we have also joining this is going to be the head of Dangerous Space Media and the producer, AJ.
Welcome, guys.
Yes, we're going to talk, we're just going to
have some fun. We're going to have some fun. We're trying not to offend anybody for sure. We're just going to keep it real.
Keep it real. If you're offended by it, tough. Get over it. You're an adult. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to have different perspectives, and we have literally every relationship perspective here. I've never dated ever, and I come from probably more of a don't. She's like don't, and honestly, I come from more of a like a God will pick my spouse perspective. That's mine, but I mean I'm not against any other ones, but that's more my perspective. And I think it'll save you a lot of pain. But then there's other perspectives where, you know, a little more proactive and, different, we have literally every topic here covered. So
That's true. Probably just me alone, I think we have every topic covered. And we've got AJ. We've got this whole thing.
We got the whole gamut covered. So if you're sitting here and you're going through relationships or you want a relationship, maybe you'll not rush into it, which I would encourage you to. But if you're in one and you have issues, maybe Melissa and AJ can help you with it. So let's just kick it off here.
I don't know. I'm good at helping other people. I'm just horrible at myself.
Isn't that the truth? It's funny because I have become a relationship advice expert.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you do realize you're asking the single guy.
Right. I say the same thing. I tell my friends, I go, look at my track record. I'm about, I won't say the number to 0. But the point is that I can see, I was like, okay, and we all know, even when you're in a relationship, if something's wrong, if the person isn't right. I just think that it's one of those things that's harder to make a change than it is to stay the same. And honestly, who wants to start over? Dating nowadays is like applying for a job. So you're interviewing. So you go and you meet so-and-so, and you're kind of interviewing them. Like, oh, well, am I attracted to them a little bit? Okay, maybe. Do we have some common goals? Do we have the same? Can we have a conversation? You really want to ask like the standard, 10 questions, but then you don't want to grill them. So you have to kind of tread lightly. But I would say 95% of the time. Yeah, it really is. It really is. But 95% of the time, they don't get a second date. And I'm really not that picky. If you can see what I've chosen before, you would know that. But the point is it's very hard. Dating and navigating dating is very difficult. Yeah,
it is. And so I'm 27, so I will speak from the millennials. A lot of young people were like, oh, and this has probably been throughout history, but I can speak for mine, like, oh, if I was married, I'd be happy. Mm-hmm. Marriage isn't going to make you happy. Mm-mm. You can be happy in marriage, but if you're marrying for the life event of just being happy, then you're codependent. You're entering into a codependent, and you're going to have problems with that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of single people, they want to have a relationship so Valentine's Day is actually Valentine's Day and not Singles
Awareness. Oh my God, well, me too.
And not Singles Awareness Day.
I want to go to a Christmas party and actually have someone to bring with me, or weddings or whatever. Absolutely. I think though.
I've always hated weddings.
I know. That's not very nice. I'm just kidding. Me too. Here's the thing though, is I look at it like this. So I think sometimes that we want a relationship just because we want someone.
Yeah.
And anyone will do. Mm-hmm. Then after a while, I would always tell the phrase, since I was like, listen, if I smell poop, I'm going to find the turd. You know what I mean? So when something's off and you feel it when something's off, but you don't want to be like that girl. You don't want to turn into James Blonde and become the psycho. But when something's off. And I think the hardest part about relationships nowadays is we kind of have this crazy balance. So like for me, even though I'm independent, I live by myself. I pay my own bills. Unfortunately, I'm not a trust fund baby. And I do mean unfortunately. But So there's a balance because I think that men have what's called white knight syndrome, and they want to be able to save you. They want to help you. They want to nurture you. They want you to be the damsel in distress. And I'm a person that I don't like to bother people and ask for help. I just want your partnership.
Yeah.
So I would think that you would like that somebody doesn't need to mooch off of you or whatever. But I also want a man to be a man, manly. You know, if it takes you longer to get ready than me, and I take a while, it's a problem. You know, so these like navigating this dating world where I do want someone to open the door for me. It doesn't have to be every single time or something crazy, but I do want to be treated like a lady and respected. But then I think I also want a man to like be a man and, you know, like, hey, like take out the trash and kind of do those things. But a lot of times they like just sit there like, well, don't you do it every day? You know, like, thank you. Yeah. Great having you here. I appreciate that. Hope you enjoyed that food I just made for you too. Thank you. But it's hard.
Yeah, and in the next episode, in another episode, we'll talk about, because I don't know when you guys see these episodes, if they're in order or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make no difference to me. But we'll talk about why men can kind of feel that way, because as a man, I kind of have a perspective on that. But we'll keep it here. And this is, I said earlier, why I hate weddings. This is why I hate weddings.
Yeah.
Weddings have become a life event like getting your first job and graduating high school. And the divorce rate says that. And I mean, and again, before I go into that, I don't want you to feel like I'm hating on divorced people, or I'm not. But from somebody who's never dated or something, I don't want to rush into it, because it's like, why spend all this money on a relationship that might fail if I'm just rushing into it for the sake of rushing into it?
Well, same with dating.
Yeah, same with dating as well.
It's the same too. It can be very expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not for me.
And when you go to the wedding as a single person, it can become there is the section where you throw the garter, and then you throw the
like the bouquet.
The bouquet,
yeah.
And all the single women get one, all the single guys get one, and then the tradition is you're the next one to get married. And then they have the dance where they say all the single people come in. Yeah. So now all of a sudden the wedding, we celebrate their wedding, and it becomes in the hookup session for the next.
Oh, well, that's because you're still young. So now at my age, like, I'm the only person out there, and then it jumps to everyone else that's like 72 and older. So it's very embarrassing. So it's basically like, of course, I'm probably going to catch the bouquet because I'm the only one not in a walker. No offense. It's embarrassing. I don't even want to get out there, because you also, I think there's also a stigma that people want to look and go like, what's wrong with her? So it's either you're too picky, or like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah,
you know, you're too picky, you're intimidating, right? Which questionable, borderline. But it is one of those things. So then you have this stereotype and everybody kind of looking at you. And I think there is a certain pressure a little bit as a woman, because I mean, I always thought that I would be married and I would have a family, and that's what I was going to do. Not that I wouldn't have a career and things as well, but I think that's what I always thought. Yeah. So now you go to weddings, you go to like baby showers, and everyone's talking about their kids, and they're like, oh, what about you? And you're like, I'm a dog mom.
Yeah.
You know? And then they kind of look at you like, huh? Like, what's your problem?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of like a scarlet letter, I think, that you feel like you wear.
Yeah.
So
it is
hard.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's funny you said that, because I actually, who wrote that? The Scarlet Letter.
Oh my gosh, now you're gonna make me think.
AJ, pull that up real quick. It was a novel.
She committed adultery.
Yeah, but I'm going to go somewhere with this.
Okay. Yeah, that's what dating feels like. Right? That's me, like every day when I'm swiping left or right. Every day. Every day.
It's funny because I want to because I have a very unique perspective, and I have you can call it Judeo-Christian religious right perspective, a church perspective. We've almost made it a sin to be single, particularly past 25.
Oh, no, for sure. Well, and if you notice things like even at churches, is a lot of times they have things like for moms. They'll have things for men. Yeah. Doesn't say dads.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It'll say, and then this for moms. Well, that's also a little bit hurtful. And I mean, not hurtful like I go home and I cry about it, but it's just I'm not a less of a person because I'm not a mother. And just because you have a child doesn't mean you're a mother either.
Yeah.
So, you know, I say I have lots of kids. I've been a mom to like lots of people, if that makes sense, because I'm a nurturer that way. But I think it is. I even dated someone and he had children. And his ex was concerned because, you know, I don't know if she'll understand because she doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
Well, I was much more nurturing to those kids even than he was. Just because you have a kid doesn't mean you're a nurturer or a parent. But I do feel like you are
Yeah.
judged a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing that I don't say that to bash churches.
No.
But I do, and I have to say that as a caveat because I know some people are going to be like, why is he talking that way? Hear me out because, I've seen it not only from a personal perspective of being around people from that mindset, but around talking with people that you are treated as a second-class citizen because it's almost like marriage has become the end-all be-all.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we end up making marriage, from that mindset, we end up making marriage the epitome of Christian living because there's scripture verses that back it up. But then we go in and what have we done? 'Cause then we look for marriage to be the fixer,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not a whole person. So instead of being single means whole, I'm one person. But unfortunately, we have a bunch of people who let's just fix them up. There's many single ministries.
Yeah.
But are there ability to perform in your as a person now ministries? And I'm a part of one, so I'm not. I'm a part of one of those.
Interesting is like a lot of the.
I'm talking about the whole culture, not just where I go.
No.
Got to make that a caveat.
No, I like where I go
I
to.
have a little opinion.
Yeah,
on that.
go ahead.
Yeah.
I think that when you're younger, I hope you guys can hear me. A lot of that happens when you're younger and you think that you need it. You, like you said, you've been trained from your grandparents to your parents, and even in high school, that out of high school, that's kind of the go.
Yeah.
Find somebody, get married, have a baby, move on. But you're not complete.
Yeah.
Right? At 18, even 24, you're not even full grown, to be honest.
Yeah.
None of us really are. And if you are, that means you probably had a pretty rough life at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get older, say like I am, and I've been married and I've been divorced. I was one of those guys at 18. And then I've been with my girl. And where you get to the point where you're so comfortable that marriage you don't want it. You're comfortable with where you are, and you realize that you don't need that little piece of paper, and you don't need to go through the big show and pony stuff to prove to people that, hey, I love this person.
Yeah.
So it changes. Your needs change. So, and when you get older, you start realizing, that's $40,000. That's
Yeah.
$60,000.
Yeah, that's true.
And you don't want to do that at all.
And
Well, don't you think too, AJ, that it's about commitment, right? It's really about like the commitment to the person,
Yes.
right? More than
The
really.
paper.
Yeah.
The
And
paper. And the paper's scary now, and I think it's scary on both portions, because now it used to just be a men thing where if we got divorced, we would lose all the alimony, but now there's so many successful women out there that's something that they have to consider as well.
Yeah.
Because the paradigm is, I don't want to say it's shifted, but the bar is becoming very, very equal to where men and women are kind of both making the same and doing the same, so they're both kind of have the same amount to lose.
It's true.
yeah.
If it fails.
Yeah.
True.
And you have my perspective is I need to allow me the ability to be a successful individual while I'm still single, because I don't need a wife to have a life.
No, but
And,
I think
and
lot
it can
of people,
be painted that way.
Well, it can definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think especially
Why
as
aren't
a
you married
female, well, yeah, and I don't have kids either, right?
Yeah.
So I've got like the two exes.
Yeah.
Which was, I just felt like Des. Anyway, I'm a big Cowboy fan. Go Cowboys. However, the thing is I look at it from a couple of perspectives. One, a lot of like the disciples and things like that, not all of them, but a lot of them were single.
Yeah.
Right? So even like Paul, that guy was solo.
Yeah.
But I think too that sometimes I have to look at it from the perspective of, if I was married and if I did have children, then maybe I couldn't further go on with some of my passions, because I think a lot of times people then get wrapped up with the family and with all these things. And my passion is helping other people and mentoring people. And again, I am a work in progress. I am not perfect. I've made a ton of mistakes, ton of them, but I just know from a different perspective, and especially dating now. I mean, it's very hard. It's tiresome. Okay. Because a lot of people do like app dating, right?
Yeah.
Online, you swipe left, swipe right. It's very difficult. I also think it's just really amazing the things that people will say to you. Like you'll match with someone and then they'll be like, "Hey, come over," and I'm like, "Are you? Hi, no."
Yeah.
But they think that's appropriate.
No, I don't at all. Well, we live in a different, like I said, different environment now. But personally, I just can't imagine just swiping and saying, "Okay, let's bone," because that's all it is. That's all I get. I've never used any of them. When Tinder first came out, a friend showed it to me. I was like, "This is all like, no, I got to take this off my phone now." But what's dangerous about it is you don't know who you're meeting.
Yeah.
And it really takes all the romance out of it when you could just swipe and say, okay, we're going to bone. And it's really, really reckless. It's so incredibly reckless to go and have that much frivolous sex. We all love to have sex. All right. We all love it. But you can't just swipe and fuck somebody. That's so irresponsible.
Well, but I also think too
Yeah.
that it makes relationships a lot more disposable. Okay, because let's say that you and I go on a date. You know, he's 15 years older. Anyway, I'm not a cougar. So we go on a date, but then I'm like, okay, well, it went good. It went okay, but I don't really know. So it's easier for me to swipe to find somebody better. I call it the bigger, better deal.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like, well, he was good and he'll do for
The
now.
greener
But I'm gonna
grass.
keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that's the way I look?
Yeah.
I think relationships are disposable, easier now, right?
Yeah.
But it's really hard
Yeah.
because they're a lot of work. So a lot of times they start out great. And then you start to get to know each other a little bit better. And well, this is his quirk and this is her quirk and this and that. And then it's like draining. And then you're like, okay, but I want to get through it. I want to power through. It's just, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. And that's what's not seen. And what
No.
you see in society, and particularly when you're, I mean, and like I've seen 18, 19, 20-year-olds get married, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's almost become, in some subcultures, that's expected.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, and I'll come from a spiritual perspective. And here's the thing: I'm a fan of marriage, but I don't believe you have to be married to be successful in ministry or in business. Because then I come from a business perspective. A lot of people in business, they're like, well, you have to have a partner, a partner to be successful. Then you go to ministry, and it's like, well, you have to have a wife to be successful in ministry. And it's like, can we paint the picture to where, and I can't put a God expectation on a human connection. And my friend Ryan Leake said that. He said that because, and I heard it said that I can't, my wife is supposed to be good at wife things, but I don't expect her to be good at God things. And it's almost as a culture, and it's almost like many Christians with us, we kind of adopt it to where I need a wife so I can be fulfilled, and then we'll find a Bible verse to back it up. How about you be you, and you operate in the season that you have right now, and be good in it? Because then what happens then is it shifts to, it's almost like and I talk from a Christian perspective, we put Bible verses on it to shame people into why you aren't here yet. So it's, why aren't you married yet? You should be with somebody, because he who findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So why are you not finding a good thing? Why are you disobeying that scripture? Then you get married, and I know married couples who they haven't had children yet. They've been married a while. Then it's why don't you have children yet? Don't you know it to be fruitful and multiply? So I don't like, when it comes to relationships, I see it in relationships, I don't like how we use scripture against people to get them to do something.
It's shaming people.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's, you shame them into doing what you want them to do.
And
my dad gave me a really piece of advice when I
Yeah.
was getting divorced, or before I was getting a relationship, and it was it's not finding the right person, it's being the right person. And you find that when you take care of yourself, it's a lot better than trying to take care of other people, because it's you're supposed to, in a sense, put somebody else before yourself. But if it's not reciprocated, in a sense, and you're not getting the love back, then what are you doing? You're literally wasting your time, your energy, you're being drained, and you're not being replenished from your emotions, your physical needs, and your emotional needs. So you have to be the right person.
Yeah.
Instead of look for the right person.
And you have to be okay with being by yourself. So I do know some people that can't be by themselves at all. Right?
Yeah.
Like they break up with somebody and it's a hot second. There's somebody else like right away.
Oh,
and and
that night, it happens all the time.
all the time. And
Yeah.
you know what?
Then
too,
you have one night stands.
Just as a side note, like when you reach a certain age, like no one needs to update your Facebook status. Okay? Don't be that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's always like constantly in a relationship with, it's complicated in a relationship with someone else. Like, really? It doesn't really look good.
Yeah.
You have to be okay being by yourself. I'm actually probably the opposite. I'm great being by myself.
Yeah.
But then you have to be able to prioritize, just like you just said, putting someone before your own needs. But
Yeah.
if you're not okay with you and you don't have your own needs met, there's no way that you can put somebody else before you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're actually not fit to even take care of a goldfish.
Yeah, because I can have and this is from my never dating thing, I can be with someone that's a good fit, or I can be with someone that's a God fit. And I think if you're watching this and you have that perspective, take that. Is this a good fit? Is this, because when I get married, I'm not trying to, and I'll end with this thought, because in our next topic is going to get really interesting. I don't want to be somebody that am I getting married to please
The world.
the world?
Yeah.
the church, my parents,
Right.
or am I getting married and it's going to end up being a good fit and all those groups will benefit from it. You know, if when I get married, she's going to be someone that everyone says, you know what, that's a match. That's a God thing, a match made in heaven. You're perfect for each other. You fit each other so well. And the story that I'm going to write before we get married is going to be worth publishing. And this show is part of that story. Mm-hmm. But so many people are just sitting here just like, I'll get started. Marriage is not the starting point. And I think many people have to have, once you understand that marriage is not the starting point, and you can be successful without it, then you'll understand life is, you're not going to be stressed out for why you're not married. But, and I'll give this advice to married people. Don't be honest like white on rice, like, why aren't you married yet? What's wrong with you? Because I hear that. It's, when you start doing that, you start putting people at the kids' table, like at Thanksgiving.
Very much so.
And it's very off-putting. And so we'll end there with that. But I want to talk about something called MGTOW. And AJ, you may have a perspective on this, but in the next episode, we'll talk about that. And thanks for watching this episode. And if we haven't lost you in this one, we may lose you in the next one.
No. We have all three perspectives here. We have good perspectives.
Yeah, so thank you for watching this episode of Stylish Leadership. We're going to get raw in the next one as well. Own your own style, my friends. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, and we'll see you in the next episode.